Good morning, Boys Latin. It is such a pleasure to be with you at this moment as we celebrate the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He is one of the few heroes who's talked about every single year during this time. He worked during the Civil Rights Movement. He was a leader. He stepped forward when others did not. He is someone, to me, who has always been a personal hero. Outside of my daddy, I always lifted up Dr. King. When I was growing up, I said I either want to be Dr. King or I wanted to be a bald eagle. That was my choice. Dr. King or a bald eagle. Because bald eagles know how to soar. They know how to go higher. They know how to stand alone. And Dr. King, when he was a little boy, that's what he wanted. He wanted to soar, to go higher, to stand alone. I think there's so many lessons that we can learn from Dr. King. I think this year, one of the things we have to think about, since so much has happened, is how can we soar? How can we go higher? How can we do more? How can you, no matter how old you are or what grade you're in, how can you make a difference? You don't have to be old to make a difference. You just have to make the decision to do it. And then step forward. Even if nobody is stepping with you, you step forward and you do the right thing at the right moment, even if nobody else is joining you. That's what it means to soar, to step forward, to be a leader. Because being a leader doesn't mean people are following you. It means you're making the right decision at the right time. You are speaking up and telling your story. You have the courage when others do not. I think there are 5 lessons we can learn from Dr. King. And I want to lay out those 5 lessons and challenge you to think a little bit more about how you can take Dr. King's vision and implement it into your life. Implement it into your classroom. Implement it into the school. The first is Dr. King talked about learning how to make sacrifices. In fact, he said if a man or a woman hasn't discovered something that they are willing to die for, then they are not fit to live. That's a big charge when you're young. Like, what are you willing to die for when you really just started living? Well, even when Dr. King was a little boy, he said he was willing to stand up for justice, stand up for freedom, stand up for equality, even when he was a little boy. It's about making choices and making decisions. What is your life worth? What is important to you? Is it lacrosse or is it fencing? Is it bow ties or is it long ties? Baseball hats or skull caps? What is important to you? Life is about making choices. When you're younger, the choices are easier. Blue shirt or burgundy shirt. As you get older, the choices become more difficult. Do you stick with someone when everyone else has turned around? Do you stand up for the person that nobody's standing up for? Do you speak for those who can't speak for themselves? It's about making sacrifice and making choices. That's number 1. Number 2, Dr. King said we must understand, recognize, and pursue the truth. Now, I'm going to make the assumption that we all know the difference between the truth and a lie. I think that's pretty clear. But there's some variations there. What about if you believe it's the truth and nobody else believes it? Does it make it false? Dr. King said that's what truth looks like. It doesn't matter whether anyone believes it. The truth stands alone. He argued that the biggest truth is around unconditional love and acceptance. That's the biggest truth that we can speak. Sometimes truth is about standing up for it. Sometimes truth is about speaking it. For us, at this moment, if we understand it, if we recognize it, then we have to pursue it. We have to press forward. We have to run to that mark. And then we have to stand on it. I think when someone tells you something and they tell you it's the truth, this is what I tell my sons. You pick it up. You hold that truth to the light. You challenge yourself and you look at it and say, is this what I believe? And if I do, why? And if I don't, why not? And then I line it up against what I've been taught. My parents have taught me the truth. My teachers have taught me the truth. Where does this piece of information stand in that line of truth that I know to be quite true in front of my life? We have to understand, recognize, and pursue the truth. That's number 2. Number 3, Dr. King talked about the power of love, which builds on this notion of truth. In fact, he said, I have decided to stick with love because hate is too great a burden to bear. Now, in Dr. King's letter from a Birmingham jail, now he wrote this on scraps of newspapers and he smuggled them out with his friends. He answered this call and asked people and challenged them to think about love, even when he was in jail. He said, despite where I am at this moment, I'm sticking with love. Despite what's happened to me, I'm sticking with love. Despite all the hate around me, I am sticking with love. Because it's about the choices I make. It's about the truth that I believe. So I'm going to stick with love. Dr. King said love is also tied to justice. In fact, he said that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. How can you love if you don't pursue justice? What does it mean again to stand up for what is right? This notion of love in action has been practiced by a number of people. Some you probably recognize. We've seen it in the teachings of Jesus Christ and Mahatma Gandhi. We've seen it in the teachings of James Farmer and Mary McLeod Bethune. We've seen the active practice of love. Dr. King said, when we stand up on the power of love. That's number 3. The 4th thing he talked about is a big one, having the courage of faith. Dr. King said faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. I think about that, like, waking up late at night and you get to the stairs. I want to see the top before I start walking. Dr. King said that's fine when I'm walking up actual steps, but in my life, I have to take a leap of faith. I have to believe I'm doing the right thing. What my father said is that you'll come to a moment when you come to the end of all that you know. And faith is when you step off into darkness knowing that you will have something very strong to stand on, or you will be taught how to fly. You'll be taught how to soar. When we step forward and we have the courage of our convictions, when we step forward doing it in truth and in love, we're taking a step of faith. Dr. King says we must step forward in faith. That's number 4. The 5th thing, which I think is really fascinating, is judging people by the content of their character and not the color of their skin. Now, we talk a lot about that, and we stand on that a lot. It's about looking at a person's heart and judging them for that. Dr. King said there's going to come a day when we're going to look to people and we're going to decide who they are based upon what they do and based upon what they say and not what they look like. I believe that part of Dr. King's dream has been achieved. Look around your classroom. We're all from different places, all different races and ethnicities, all different religions, and we're all judging each other based upon what we say and what we do. You should hold fast to that. Because when you're in an environment like Boys Latin, it's about having your genius sparked. It's about learning that you are here for a purpose. It's about understanding that you don't have to be old to do the right thing. Here's a prime example. When Dr. King was in the Birmingham jail, right next to him was activist Dick Gregory. And Dick Gregory said there was a 4-year-old boy in jail with him. 4 years old. He had been out with his sister. He had gone to the march with his sister. And he had been arrested like his sister. And he was told by the person in charge that we're going to hold you in jail 1 day for every year of your life. That's 4 days in jail for a 4-year-old. Dick Gregory said that when he got out of jail after 4 days, he had been crying the whole time. They put a microphone in his face saying, why were you in jail? What do you want? You're only 4. He said, I just want my freedom. Dr. King said he couldn't even say the word freedom. He just knew what he wanted. He just wanted his freedom. You don't have to be old to do the right thing. Dr. King said that 4-year-old that day inspired more people than he did. Because if a 4-year-old could stand up for justice, If a 4-year-old can stand up for freedom, if a 4-year-old can have courage, then why can't you? Boys Latin, I want you to ask yourself a couple of questions. What are you good at doing? What is your passion? What can you do better than anybody that you know? And how can you use that to make the school better? We have to collectively press forward to make ourselves better, to make our friends better, to make our school better, and ultimately, and this probably sounds huge to a 5-year-old and not so big to an 11th grader, ultimately make Baltimore City better. Because I believe there's a place that exists beyond all of this. Beyond school, beyond just being with our friends, a place where we work to make everything better. We stand on truth. We pursue it. We love one another for who they are and what they say and not for the color of their skin. We stand up with the courage of our convictions. We look forward to doing the right thing, and then we do it together. My dad says that during the civil rights movement, when they would put all the children together, 5-year-olds and 7-year-olds and 12-year-olds and 15-year-olds, and what they would tell them, when you get scared, you reach out your hand to the right and you grab the person's hand there. And then you reach out your hand to the left and you grab the person's hand there. And then once you've grabbed everybody's hand, and then you sing. You sing the same song. Because as long as you know someone is singing with you, then you have courage, you have truth, you have love. You can stand together knowing that you're not by yourself. So let's lean into this moment. Let's celebrate the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. together, and let's go forward and make his dream a reality. Thank you so much.